Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Rhyme of the Times for the week ending 13th of April 2024. In court, Alan Bates has his day and his say, and is determined that the post office will pay in every way. Dr. Cass's survey conveys the message that many NHS doctors weren't au fait with the way to allay the anxiety of kids who feel their gender isn't okay. In Australia, 6 are slayed by a guy mentally in a bad way. A huge rise in the Scottish police in tray since the hate bill came into play. OJ passes away. Israelis pray as drones head their way, but Iran's retribution was to be expected at the end of the day. Dr. Hilary Cass, an esteemed paediatrician, for quite a few years has been on a mission to examine the NHS actions and decisions when it comes to children's gender transition. And with her knowledge, expertise and evidence, her report was like a herd of elephants trampling all over NHS practice for a whole number of reasons and factors. Gender-related distress in kids ain't new, and the Cass review for some was overdue. Many people had been getting in a stew as the number of cases grew and grew. From 50 a year in 2009 to around 5,000 at the present time. Good judgment and practice got lost in the deluge as the NHS struggled with the volume so huge. Without training and guidance, many clinicians were scared to make transition decisions. Is it that social media everywhere is making Gen Z more gender self-aware? The Gender Identity Development Service GIDS was supposed to give assistance to trans kids was last week forced to stop operating 4 years after getting an inadequate rating. And when it comes to the transition debate, words get cloaked in prejudice and hate. All these factors combined to generate an NHS list with a 4-year wait for all those children who might want to end their identity that matches with their birth gender. On Saturday, many thought it was a terror attack, but soon that assumption was taken back. Did Joel Cauchi know what he was doing, or didn't he, when he killed 6 people in a mall in Sydney? He suffered from schizophrenia, and his dad said this was a day that he'd for a long time come to dread. The Bondi Junction slaughter was stopped when he was shot by an heroic police officer called Amy Scott. For 20 years, Alan Bates has been in pursuit of those he describes as thugs in suits, the post office management bureaucrats, once bullies but now quivering scaredy cats, the Jobsworths who seem to have one aim, to preserve at all costs the post office's good name. Initially they'd pursued Alan until he resigned. Into history's dustbin they thought he'd been consigned. They hadn't anticipated the worm would turn, and now it's the turn of the thugs to squirm. And how they now turn and how they now squirm, as the inquest on Wednesday was about to confirm. From 2006 until 2010, Alan Cook had been one of the PO's most senior men, but on Friday the former MD of the group floundered like a fly in a bowl of soup. Cook looked frazzled as he was roasted and grilled for his reference to subbies with hands in the till. 200 prosecutions happened when he was the boss, but he claimed on this matter he was at a loss. He hadn't been aware of any cases being brought, and Horizon was infallible, he'd always thought. By the end of the day, a beleaguered Mr. Cook had that hang dog, I'm going to prison look. Since the Hate Crime and Public Order Bill was unrolled, hate allegations in Scotland have increased 50-fold. Humza Yousaf says this shows the new law's a success, cause we now see how much hate was being suppressed. An opinion that might not be shared by the plod, overwhelmed by a new wave of hateful odds and sods. There was a trip down memory lane on Thursday, in fact not so much a lane, more a massive highway. Blurred video footage of that famous car chase as O.J. Simpson sought to avoid a court case. For those pre-smartphone days of '95, this was a drama we couldn't believe we saw live. The Deuce, of course, was caught and wound up in court for double murder charges that he steadfastly fought. And as seems to be the way in the USA, the nation became polarised on that day. Although going by how the trial would unfold, most thought he was guilty if the truth be told. But amazingly, a blood-soaked glove didn't fit, and the mainly black jury chose to acquit. He'd been a football and then a big screen star, but a reputation for violence had his name scarred. On Thursday he died aged 76, leaving a legacy which is at best mixed. Sunday was 6 months since Hamas's invasion, but little time to reflect on that awful occasion when terrorists ripped the scab off festering abrasions, cuts that have wept as long as civilization. So now the world's on the blink and on the brink. With Israel, will Israel or Iran be first to blink? On the 1st of April, Israel wasn't fooling around. An Iranian consulate was razed to the ground. 2 Iranian commanders in Damascus killed. Israeli military objectives fulfilled. The world held its breath and nervously waited. Inevitable retaliation anticipated. And as a febrile week came to a close, what materializes next, God only knows. But what it was definitely possible to say, hundreds of drones were heading Israel's way in the dying embers of Saturday.